What is up, YouTube? Matt Price here, Soundrolling.com. Wanted to do live hangout. Been doing lots of post production today, and then obviously now I'm doing lots of work on the second and now third business that I have on the side because we recently split them up. So wanted to start off. If you are not familiar with this and there's no live symbol, the whole idea is that I randomly come on at impromptu moments and just generally share what I'm going through at the moment or what people have asked me. And you can always ask me stuff, and do get down in the comments below, even if this video is over, and then I will follow up, and I will follow with those questions first, if that makes sense. So what I want to do is I do a lot of content that is kind of just general, with also resources. If you also go to learn.soundrolling.com, as well as soundrolling.com for the blog, or the soundrolling.com podcast, then yeah, I do this kind of live Q&A. It just gives me more kind of leverage and versatility to like answer individual questions and see if I can help you, whether that's a career, finding a way forwards, if you've got any issues. Not that I know all the answers, but I am more than happy to share where I am at the moment. For those that don't know me, I'm about nearly 10 years into this. I think that's technically 10th year. Nah, outside of uni, it's probably like 9 now. Got about 500 projects under my belt, and yeah, things are going well. So lots of feature films and creative content type of stuff. So I do want to just talk about doing location work versus also doing the post production. I found it quite lucrative so far in quite a lot of projects to do both. Sup Ross Abel, to do both location and post production sound for projects. It gives you one. You own more of the end product. A lot of people from a last video podcast that I did, a lot of people felt a bit strange about posting up final versions of the work that they'd done location sound on, because they didn't feel that it was like fully theirs. But you need to show something, because otherwise a builder who doesn't show you a building just looks very suspicious, even if they only built one wall or whatever. So yeah, so it's been quite good. It's nice, especially on the branded content, creative content, that kind of thing. Just because it's usually a lot quicker. The edits are now super short these days, especially if it's for Instagram. Because then that's 60 seconds, and then usually they have a 3-minute one or something. And it's quite easy to have the same format on various videos. So obviously they can get lots of content out at the same time. For feature films, however, I've been doing that for a while as well, because basically I know that I've recorded the sound on set the best way I can, and then taking that to post-production, I'm able to move a lot faster in terms of getting that dialogue edit tightened up, in terms of the ideas we already talked about on set. It's effectively like a post-production person having an actual pre-production meeting, which is rarer and rarer, I imagine, in the lower budget world. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on it. But I do sway in between, in between kind of loving and hating it. Sup Saeed, how's it going? I do kind of sway in between loving and hating just the post production side. Don't get me wrong. I got in, and I think I excel at post production. Sup Greg Palmer, long time no see. I do kind of sway in between the post production loving, because especially the feature films, they always drag on, and there's always more you can do, but you never usually have enough time. So Greg Palmer, so when you say post, do you mean noise reduction or sound design and mixing? I mean the whole thing. I mean, they will give me, so on the latest feature film, they give me the whole post-production budget, and it is my job to basically get the best value sound out of that. So I hired someone to do Foley, I hired someone to do mixing, and then I was basically doing all the other legwork in between, in terms of like trying to get the dialogue edit down, trying to get the pre-mix down, and then building on that is the mixer. So then he's able to properly, in his room, like level everything out. So I can do quite a lot on a laptop. And then I do have Genelec speakers over there and things like that for the actual dialogue edit, in terms of being able to definitely just hear everything in all its kind of painful detail. And then when he takes it into the mixing room, it does make me feel a lot better because yeah, it's just a nicer room, a nicer environment, and it's not as loud as I'm kind of playing it to try and pick out every single frequency under the sun. But yeah, I think I'm going to go through a spell of just doing location. I do have another short film that I'm doing that I'm quite looking forward to doing the post on as well. But again, it's so much easier when there's like especially when it's a short that has a good script. That it's nice. It's a long enough time to get your teeth stuck into. So I don't mind doing a feature for like a month or two. But then the post production ends up being like a month, 2 months, sometimes now like 3, 4 months. Just kind of going back, and it's nice to have the time to do it. But always when you have a deadline, and then it keeps getting knocked a bit more, it almost takes the pressure off. But then you kind of don't. You get to a point like I'm still waiting for music, that it's just kind of long. And I'm a type of person that just kind of like grabs something, runs with it, until it's kind of done. So that is where I'm at the moment, and then just kind of moonlighting here in the other businesses that I have now. So yeah. So if you guys have any questions, otherwise you're pretty much up to date with how I feel about location sound versus post production sound. People were asking me on Instagram about favorite boom poles. I basically have Panamics still from a long time ago now. I've got a drama one and I've got a shorter one. But I would say the brands that I think stand out most in the industry are probably K-Tech and Ambient. So it's home in Amsterdam and prefer to visit. Nice. Yeah, in terms of brands, I think the K-Tech and the Ambient have the most kind of variety and seem most well renowned for just flexibility and stuff. If you haven't already, download the comparison sheet that compares 126 different boom poles in terms of like collapsed length, full length, how many sections. It doesn't tell you price because I knew that would keep like updating and changing with deals and stuff. But you can download that off learn.soundrolling.com for free. Just put in your email address and you'll be able to get access to everything and a few other courses that I've done on there as well. And I do actually need to make more podcast episodes about that. That reminds me. So, does any 7 of you, have any questions? Because I am at your disposal in terms of what you guys have been working on, or if you guys need any help, or just what I would do in your situation. Again, this is more me to have like a massive bank and build up of stuff that I'm basically working with, and then I'm just gonna see how it all turns out. Maybe I'm a massive failure. Who knows? Who knows? Okay, Greg Palmer, can you talk about site prep, carpets/blankets? Do you prefer these? I do on some sets. Quite a lot of times, I manage to arrange it with the actual location people, which is very nice. Usually, it's a lot trickier if there's kind of lots and lots of locations, and I prefer not to like weigh stuff down. But if we're shooting in like a massive church and it's just like absolutely killing everything, then it's just tricky. I don't use them enough as I probably could. But for instance, in a scenario where there's a junket, I did one at Arsenal football stadium a while ago, and there's like 3 crews shooting, and so I made them order loads of sound blankets to help break up the room. So when everyone was doing separate interviews one by one, it just really cut down the room space, and we could all get nice and close with the mics. So yeah, site prep in terms of that. Carpet's more useful. Instead of like blankets for cutting down a wall, always like a spare bit of carpet on the floor is super useful for footsteps, walking away, that kind of thing. But I also use things like hush heels for shoes. And so there's kind of other ways that I get around it that actually keep the kind of heavy lifting aspect of dragging like a whole roll of carpet or a whole load of blankets around. So that just I expense it as well, just the same, and it probably works out as about the same money as well. But But yeah, so definitely Hush Heels. If you look up those, really good for sticking on shoes. Do not do it. Be very careful when it is like a wet floor. That is going to be it's going to be useless. They're going to slip over, and you're potentially going to break someone's ankle if you do that in a heel. So do be very careful in the wet. But in interiors or anything like that, great. Blankets, anything 100% when there is a scene that I know is on like a gravel driveway, because that is like just the ultimate carnage for dialogue. So hopefully that answers that, Greg. Thanks for questioning or asking a question. Jay Ryan, are there programs other than Isotopes that can deal with lav rustle? Probably Cedar, so that's CEDER. That does kind of noise reduction. But generally with lav rustle, the problem is it depends on where it is and how it sounds over the dialogue. Generally, even though Isotopes and a lot of those programs are getting better at kind of deciphering this kind of multi-band noise, I think it's always going to be tricky to kind of fully remove it. I equate it to kind of, if you're color grading and you want to get rid of like a primary color, like blue, but you still want to keep all the greens. If you take all the blue out of this picture, you would lose the green as well, if you see what I mean. It's all about that disabling of that. But if you had a boom over the top, you can always see if you can improve that. And things like Cedar, they do a lot of reduction as well. But RX6 definitely worth its weight in gold. You can kind of buy ones, cry ones with that kind of level where it is. Whereas I probably wouldn't have gone for it if it was still RX4 and things like that. But now you have like ambient, like you can print room tone from it. You can do all sorts of things. It's insane. And I think the next version that they bring out, they're probably going to smash their fucking A game as well. But RX6 Advanced is super, super good. So highly recommend that. Ross Abel, if you're buying lavs again at the moment, would you still invest in COS 11s or make the jump to DPA's new stuff? I'm now super tempted to make the jump to DPA stuff. The 6060s, they sound amazing. They're small enough. And it's not that I don't love the COS 11s. I will always have COS 11s, I think, at least as backups, as clip-ons. Oh, but I'm just finding in some scenarios that they're getting a bit kind of honky, I guess, is a description that was used earlier by one of my mixer friends mixing my lav mics. It's just sometimes the placement of them just makes them a bit kind of, but that's also the voices, I guess. So probably 6060s, and it'll probably be with the next film that I do. I'll try and invest all in one before that, and that's generally how I upgrade most of my wireless anyway, because you need a lot of it at the same time, and then I need the accessories, and then I need to make sure it works. So it's just a never-ending thing, really. So hopefully that answers that question. But again, COS 11 is still great value for money and stuff. They just haven't changed in that long, and they're okay. But I wouldn't mind seeing a new Sanken lav mic for sure. Just like they do fantastic work for their mini CS1s, is it? I think was the newest one. Laurent Cooper, what's the best way of networking in a new city or state? Firstly, go there. No, well, you don't have to go there yet. So go on Instagram and go on Twitter and go on all this social media, but those two are probably the easiest because they have search by location. Then what you want to do is you want to go to look up film studios or whatever type of work you're doing, like hashtag corporate video, and then you find a corporate video space. And then I would say that you start to reach out to people and just offer them extra value. So if you're not physically in that location yet, maybe offer to clean up some dialogue or something for free and just try and like build a relationship from afar. This is actually entirely how I started my whole career. I ended up after university, I had to go, I took some time away, like long story short, and then came back. And then I was 500 miles away from London, where I knew everything was. And what that meant is that I had to basically start doing like low paid work But again, this is my start of my career anyway. Lower paid work and just get into the circles of people and just network and prove myself, and then have great showreel and get recommended and referrals. So it's the same kind of thing. It's a super long process if you want to make it really successful, but you don't have to make that many kind of clients to be able to again have your whole life kickstarted. Also, maybe try and find other mixers in that city, see if you can help those mixers. That's another way. But in terms of a networking standpoint, making content demonstrating that you know what you're talking about, and also helping out people and searching the right locations, you're pretty much just primed as long as you keep throwing in the work to be able to make the opportunities that you want to make happen, depending on whatever work that was in. So, for instance, if I was wanting to go all the way to the US now, let's say, I want to go to New York or something, I'm gonna start looking at the New York film schools and what they're making. I'm gonna leverage what content I have on YouTube. I'm gonna leverage what all the projects that I have so far. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna contact people on Instagram. I'm going to try and get a lot of word out about the type of work that I'm doing, and that I'm coming, and that it's going to happen here, and I'm going to work on this, and that kind of thing. And then people will either accept you, and that would be amazing, or you're just going to have to slog it out until you find a new a new kind of set of clientele. So it's definitely going to take a long time, and basically not the longer you can prep for it, you need basically a decent amount of time to prep, and then I think you just need to jump in, and then when you're there, depending if you have any other dependents or people that rely on you for like income, it's easier, it's harder to kind of just slog away and make that call. So hopefully that kind of helps. But over in the UK, there's not that many states, but I was still effectively a whole country away in Scotland, and managed to make it work in London while buying like 20 grand's worth of kit in like a year and a half. So it all depends on your kind of ambition, I guess, and why you're moving out, I guess, or where you're moving to. So putting all those things into mind will make it easier or harder for your jump across. But thanks for your question. Hopefully that kind of helped, or at least gave some sort of context. Again, I'm not any sort of oracle. I'm just saying exactly that happened to me, and that's what I did. So hopefully it might work for you. Chris Camacho. Hi, Matt. Would you recommend for a first workhorse shotgun mic? Oh, what would I recommend? You have an MK50 for indoors right now, but I'm hesitant when it comes to exteriors. Okay. And I'm torn between the 416, the CS3E, and the CMIT 5U. So I would say out of those three, because again, there are probably some more that you could get. And it depends on your budget, because obviously they're all budgeted between a grand and a half about. I would say you could also throw in there maybe looking at the DPA 4017, I want to say. I think that's the right model number. And that's also, I've heard amazing things about that. I've heard amazing things about the CS3E. I know that they shot, for instance, Interstellar on that. Mark Weingarten uses that mic a lot and loves it. Just for that rejection. It just thinks is insane. CME5U. So I would say go for one of the latter two, and I say you probably can't go wrong for exteriors with either of those two. It all comes down to choice. Potentially you want to even just look at a MKH 60 or 70 to complement the set. Quite a lot of people, like for instance, I bought an MK41 Sherps mic for my interiors, and I had a 416, and so when I was upgrading, I went for the Super CMIT, just because it was the kind of same brand model, and I thought they would kind of sound the same, as well as getting some of the perks of like the digital noise filtering options. So either CS3E, because maybe you have COS 11s and that'll match really nicely, or go with the MKH 60, or even if you're with DPAs, maybe even try testing out the DPA 4017. They do it in various models. There's like an A, B, and C, and you can actually get it to a reasonably sized kind of preamp. I think that's the right model. You need it. It's definitely a shotgun model. Um, so yeah, I think it is. I think it is. Maybe that's also in it. No, yeah, it is a shotgun model. But there's different variations, so I'm getting confused with the numbers. So uh, Tyrone, Tyrone Allison, mobile VO booth advice, sound blankets, etc. Which large diaphragm studio mic would you prefer for VO work? And are semicircular foam type mic screens, not pop shields, worth the extra expense? I don't have too much experience doing mobile VO work, but if you look up a guy called Booth Junkie on YouTube, he has hell of a lot of advice because all he does is recommend basically kind of big diaphragm microphones, and he has loads of comparisons on his YouTube channel as well. And he's a voice actor and just does loads of comparisons and things like that. So hopefully that helps if you check him out. Booth Junkie is kind of his title. So if you just search that. And for all the people watching, I'm still actually live. If you still see a live button, so get some questions in, and we'll spend another kind of 10 minutes just chatting about stuff. And then I'll make this into a podcast. So Gregorios, hi Matt, what is your ideal lapel microphone for you? At the moment, my workhorse is the Sanken COS 11, and that is purely just because it's just very versatile. I really like it. I've had some DPA 4071s, and that's more for burying under clothes, but I found that the grills on the actual top of the mic come off, and I just think they're a bit fragile and delicate. So I'm actually looking at upgrading and going to the 6060s because they sound amazing and they are small. God damn. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to test a few out, rent some out, and we'll see what we think. And yeah, sound speeds, yeah, 6060. So yeah, Greg Palmer, can you talk about the difference between the 416, the MKH60, and the 8060? Firstly, no personal experience of all three at the same time, but 416, the classic workhorse kind of super cardioid kind of mic. The MKH60 is the kind of updated version to go along with the MKH50 range, and then the 8060. Oh no, the MKH60, is the shotgun range for that. And then the 8060, I believe, can just turn into digital. So that is the main kind of difference, that the 8060 can have a digital module to turn it into a digital signal all the way down. The MKH60, I believe, is maybe like a smoother roll-off or something compared to the MKH416. Looking at them, there probably isn't that much difference. Maybe I think the MKH60 is a bit more sensitive. So hopefully that helps. YJ Gold, what do you usually do when recording a crazy reverberant space? Do you bring anything yourself or ask production for what they have? If they've told me that we're shooting in a crazy church, I take it with just basically understanding the script, because you can have a reverberant space. Like, this is quite reverberant in terms of sounding quite big, especially if I get louder, but it bounces back quite quick. But if you're in a church or something like that where things are carrying on for ages, you just can't really have like an argument, or you need to make sure that the actual script and story is contextual. Otherwise, it's definitely sound blankets and carpets and foam pads and that kind of thing. And I would kind of try and pre-arrange that. And if that wasn't in their budget, then I'm going to tell them that this is how it's going to sound. Echo, 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 echo. But yeah, I wouldn't leave it until the actual day, and I would just make sure that they kind of clear up when they give you locations, if this is narrative, what's going on. If they don't give you, I've been on corporate shoots and things like that. We've shot in warehouses and all sorts of stuff. It's about making it contextual in terms of the space, because if you have nothing to kind of corner off and make the room feel smaller, then it's all about context as to, I am at this giant frigging cathedral look how epic I sound and how epic the cathedral is. And I think as an audience member as well, I would understand that more than kind of this weird close-up shot, but it sounds like I'm in the Sistine Chapel. It's a different thing. So, Alexandre, how's it going? Hello, ambient wild sound, mono, stereo. What kind of stereo, if any? I bring on my hand uh, a Zoom H1 if I want to record in stereo, XY. Generally, I'm recording most of my ambient wild sound as mono, and this is because generally they're going to fill out the edges of the mix with the Atmos track, which is going to be stereo. And then I'm going to be able to basically make sure that all my room tone for the center of the mix is consistent and that there's enough kind of going around. You can do it a lot nowadays with kind of making things into stereo as well. If you really wanted to, you can take a longer section of two mono consistent sounds and just lay a separate part of them underneath each other and make them into stereo if it's like an air conditioner sound, for instance. So if it's not anything too unique, then that's fine. And then I do a lot of spot effects as kind of mono. So if we're working in a bottle factory, I'll go around and get individual recordings of like bottles going through the machine. And the labels being put on and things like that. So I'm kind of building it for the center of the screen and what's going on in the center, depending how it goes and what the setup of the narrative is, and if I'm doing post production, if there's anything special. That's generally what I'm doing. I'm aiming for the middle. So yeah, sound speeds. In short, 416 is a shotgun with a small diaphragm. The 50 had a larger diaphragm. Aha, increases bass response. And the 8060 is a smaller diaphragm and modular, so you can use a digital preamp, like I said before, yeah. But they all sound similar because they're kind of a similar range, and it's all from Sennheiser. So that hopefully clears that up as well. So it's been about half an hour. I'm going to close this down now. I'm going to make a load of extra content on the podcast and things like that. And I'm going to answer this final question because it just came in again from Chris. How do you juggle working on independent projects, short films, low budget features, etc., that don't have large budgets? At your level, do you just decline things that you can't agree on a decent rate? So if it's a short film, short films are a very funny thing. I think there's no real... The value in the film, it depends purely on where the funding is, because generally people don't like sell short films. It doesn't generally go to Netflix or whatever. So I would say that those tend to be more of a value investment in the director or the project or the writer or whatever you're trying to do, or if you're doing the post-production as well, then yeah, that's kind of where I kind of see short films. So they're a bit of a free-for-all, and if basically it boils down to if they want to try and achieve X and they're giving me Y and I need X to make it work, then it's kind of, I just put it out there. And I don't really now work on projects. It was only at the early start of my career where I was like just saying yes to anything, even if it was ridiculous, just to get experience. And yeah, and then yeah, these days it's about like I want to actually have more showreel material. I don't just want to work on shit that people don't really care about the sound, because that's my whole friggin' job. With the low budget features, it's all about working it in again to... With some of them, again, I believe in like the producer or the director, and so I know that they're going to do more films, and so I'm willing to take a further hit on that. I generally work it out to a decent rate and try. I'm basically now in a place where I'm taking more responsibility to pay a boom operator effectively more than myself, because a good boom operator is kind of there to make it all happen in terms of the mic placement and miking people. And so I'm just willing to take that hit. But basically, if you want to take all the money, then you're going to just have to work more. And so it's just constantly kind of a value exchange between how much work do I want to put in and how much will I get out of this? Will I get better connections? Will I have fun? That's a thing as well. And will it be a good film overall? And will there be a chance of repeat work? So, like many other things. And if you can't agree, then yeah, do say no. There's a lot of power in saying no, and it'll actually probably make you feel better. I definitely say more to more things than I do say yes, because I'm only physically one person, and there's going to be something else that comes along. So I'll let someone else deal with all the fallout. Um, so yeah, Ross Abel. Oh, Soundspeeds. You still need to bring me to the UK for a show. I do. I need. Who should sponsor me? Lectrosonics, if you're watching. DPA, Sankan. Anyone want to sponsor Soundspeeds to come out and hang out? That'd be great. Okay, and a final question. I'll sneak this in as well. Ross Abel, what do you think? 633 is too extravagant for a first mixer. I know there are cheaper out there, but I'm also one for buy ones, cry ones. I think the 633 will get you a long way as a first mixer. I think it's fantastic. I think if I was starting at ground zero again and remembering what I had, I probably had something that was less grade quality than that for the first 3 or 4 years. And so there's so much potential with it. I would say if you can get a 633, it's just going to massively work in your favor for especially the kind of content stuff, short films, and potentially even a feature film or two with not many characters all at the same time. But again, this buy ones, cry ones thing is not buy ones and cry because you can't afford rent and you get kicked out of your house and you have to like sleep in a car unless you really want to do that. It's more about I'm gonna do this because I know it's a solid investment for a long time. I'm not planning on shifting massively and changing. So, for instance, I bought the Super CMIT. It's about $3,000. It seems silly to maybe pay for a mic with $3,000, but it's definitely come in handy. I use it all the time. If I bought something and then I just not really used it and then decided to sell it on, I would feel less happy about that. So if you're comfortable with the sound devices, how it's all set up, or even if you want to look more at Zaxcom for like just an integrated ecosystem of where you're going to go, because this is your first mixer, you now have the opportunity of trying to figure out, because a lot of people will tell you what they use, and it's because mixers are expensive and they tend not to use lots of mixers. So the people that are using Cantars or whatever, they'll tell you that Cantar is great, and Cantar is obviously very, very good mixer. But because they know it in and out, I know loads of people that are super happy with the Zaxcom, loads of people that are now doing the Sonosax. So although it can be daunting to be like, I have no fucking idea, and everyone's telling me that everything is good, just kind of rent a few out, see which system kind of makes sense for you, and then that is going to be definitely the one that brings you the most value in terms of just how it works. So for me, for instance, I had a 664 before even the 633 came out, and so naturally I decided to just go for the 688 rather than getting a 633, because I still wanted the full range and being able to go up to do feature film levels. Now I could have also then bought a 633 for smaller jobs. But I've decided to throw lots of money into sound apps and businesses and all sorts of random crap instead. So I'm perfectly happy sticking with my 688. And yes, some people go for still the 788. Yeah, and if you're really on a super budget, yeah, the new Mix Pre's in terms of the 10T and the 6, they are definitely more than equivalent to what I started off with for the first 3 years of my career as well. So just think longevity, but think that the thing that you're going to buy, just like when the newest mixer came out, all the other mixers started to go on sale and flood the market and blah blah blah. You want something that's going to last long enough, but you don't want to buy a Mix Pre 6 and then figure out that you actually need a 633 later on because of the time code in and out and this, that, and the other. But so purely just based on me having a decision to buy a 633 as my first mixer, yes. But that is because I had a terrible mixer, the Edirol R44, for that. So Mix Pre's are great with the new larger mixer options, but does the 10T? I don't know if the 10T has the proper time code and things like that. So Ah, does it? Yeah, the 10T. I think it's got B and C, doesn't it? I think. Yeah, so I would say go for that. I'm reconnecting. Go. Yeah, that's the T. The T is for time code. That is a fun fact as well. Right, I'm going to end this now, and I have to go feed my wife, bless her, poor pregnant wife. They go through a lot, don't they? So, right, until next time, I'm going to make loads of this. John O'Kerry! Oh my god, everyone's joining just at the last minute. I'm going to go now, and then I'm going to be on tomorrow. That's how this is going to work. So I will see all you guys tomorrow. Thanks very much for the space.